excited to be up here with such a great group of panelists. I'm going to just start off by having them all introduce themselves and giving a sense of their role within the project. So Doris, if you'd like to start.
Good morning. My name is Doris Brown. I work with HP Inc. I work in the Worldwide Marketing and Strategy Organization, and my role in this is I have the pleasure of working with some beautiful brands around the world and get them to understand the technology of digital print. Talk about disruptive technology. HP has been at the lead of changing print technology over the past years, and we have some amazing new technology which you've seen in a lot of different executions. So my role has been lovely in working with a great team of people, educate them, inspiring them, and getting them to really challenge the organization in how to produce a digital print packaging.
Hi, my name is Steve Spencer. I work at a small design firm in Pittsburgh, PA, called Maya Design. I've been working with, Bonin for about 1.5 years now. I've known him for a couple of years. And we started out with trending vending, and we tied together a lot of different technologies that have never been put together before. And we kind of did the same thing on this project.
Hi, my name is Shalini Agrawal. I'm a media supervisor at 360i, focusing on paid social. So I worked on devising the media strategy to bring this product to market and to accomplish the aggressive sales goals brought to us by Bonin's team.
I'm John Gibson. I'm the Global Planning Director for the Mondelēz business at the Martin Agency. And our job from the process was, within the project, was really understanding what the parameters were once we got the brief from the team, and like what the timing was, and kind of triangulating what was possible, like what our canvas was. And then from that, using, bringing the platform, which, Bonin spoke to a little bit of Wonderfilled, this idea of wonder to life in a really tangible way through the project. So not just, customization, but really allowing people to tap into wonder and to actually express themselves through the packaging.
Thank you. I'm Jessica Ressler, and I'm the creative director of the Participation Agency, and we work in the cross-section of live and digital experiences. We came onto the project pretty late, so I'm honestly very humbled and honored to be on the stage with these great creators here. But what we've done is worked to bring a portion of the project to life, and we actually have a micro museum on the back of a flatbed that is sort of the first live showcase of the product that's been running around the city for the last few days.
Wonderful. All right, so let's start understanding a little bit of the sort of context of the marketplace these days. Obviously, with digital being such a huge component of the way people are interacting just generally, and the omni-channel consumer being sort of the new norm, I would say. Maybe from your point of view, what are the new truths of the marketplace that we're sort of working in, and who is this new consumer?
So I think the new consumer truly wants to connect with a brand, not only from a digital perspective, but also a physical perspective. So when you're able to really engage with a consumer in that manner and delight them by not only building loyalty through a packaging, but also through an experience, you're really connecting and firing on all cylinders. I think that's a significant trend. I think a lot of brands don't recognize that there's such a tremendous amount of effort put by a consumer in loyalty to a brand, and in many cases it's very disappointing what comes back. What I see here is really that moonshot I agree with. I think this is a major drop mic opportunity for the industry to recognize what Oreo has done here. So I think that's a significant trend going on right now.
Yeah, I would add, there's so many different ways to kind of express who you are as a brand that the omni-channel thing just seems obvious now. I think traditionally you have radio or you have TV. They're big areas where you can play, and it's getting hard to get a big audience on one platform. And so you need the omni-channel approach. You need to be the same brand on everything you touch. And so everything just needs to be working and genuine.
I think that because of our mobile phones, people expect more personal experiences, and you're walking around with a personal computer every day. So you expect your news to be personalized to your interests. You log onto Facebook and you expect the stories to be relevant to you. So it only makes sense that brands start taking that lead and making personalized experiences for people as well. But in terms of consumer behavior, we're seeing an increased trend in consumers, doing more research beforehand before they commit to a product, expecting the user experience to be more seamless, and they might even drop off if your advertising or your website is not optimized for their phone or their desktop. So brands really need to be aware of the best practices to reach their consumers and to keep their attention.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add is that I think at our core, people are still motivated by the same things that we've always been motivated by, that we want brands that we feel get us, that understand who we are, that we identify with, and we just have so many different opportunities now that we didn't have before to really bring that to life. And I think something that Cindy said is really important too, that this is a brand that isn't a routine purchase necessarily. So the more that we can actually create that top of mind experiences and draw people in deeper, the more important that is for this category and a brand like Oreo especially.
Culture brands are shaping the future of marketing, and that's a really exciting time right now for brands, because brands are essentially the only financiers of fun left in the world. Brands throw music festivals and they're arbiters of art, but consumers really don't want to feel like they're being sold to. And so to get past this, brands really have to have a point of view. And I think what the Martin Agency has done in creating a point of view for Oreo in this moment is incredibly important.
Awesome. So there's a limited amount of attention that any consumer has, obviously, and there's so many now options for a brand to sort of touch them. So really being able to sort of seize upon those moments with these experiences that really understand who that consumer is seems to be one of the things that I'm really hearing here. So with that as the sort of reality here, maybe you can talk about how you came upon the solution, obviously working with Mondelēz to arrive at what you did, and maybe what's most exciting to you about the sort of final execution there. Maybe Steve, you want to start?
I think that there's a lot of different pieces that had to be put together. We definitely couldn't have done this alone. Every single company kind of brought their A game, including, I think Mondelēz has an equally large team. Don't discount how much it took inside of Mondelēz to really pull all this together. There's a brand new digital press technology that we see being used with Coca-Cola with names on cans around the world. That's pretty impressive. I think Cindy saw the Bud Light campaign, 200,000 different cans. It's easy to buy a pack in a store, and everybody gets the same pack. It's hard to buy the same thing online, right? You just don't want to spend 4 or 5 times as much online. So we had to figure out a way to make something that's unique, that you can't get anywhere else. And that's where Martin kind of came in with, how do we have something that's really intriguing that we want to play with. There's a lot of web technologies. We have a whole team at Shopify helping out with the kind of e-commerce back end. So there's a tremendous number of teams working on this project to pull everything together.
Yeah, I mean, a tremendous effort all around. I think one thing that's important is we have a really pointed and powerful kind of creative mission for the brand, which is to let wonder loose in the world. And oftentimes we're talking about that. We're saying that in our advertising. We're creating that clear message. But where it gets more powerful and where it gets super exciting is when we can actually provide an experience that does that. And I think moonshot might not be too strong of a word to say in terms of the possibility of now pushing this idea of wonder, this wonder-filled, into the world as a platform. That intent has always been there, and we've always talked about the possibilities of how it can affect every different touch point, from packaging to product to now actually see it happening is just super exciting. And the only other thing just really specific to the idea, I think, is we talk about wanting to be iconic brands and make all the brands within Mondelēz iconic, and because they are so familiar, they're so beloved. But part of that is doing things within culture and tapping into things within culture that are kind of like the leading edge of that. So working with artists like Jeremyville, like Tim Goodman, are examples of doing that because they are really interesting and their styles just lended themselves to this customization project so nicely.
I think Mondelēz really early recognized that the execution could be an extension of the brand and the packaging. And I think that they went outside of their own organization and pulled people in. And I think that's another thing that marketeers need to think about today. They need to think about they can't do it all themselves. Typically, traditionally, these organizations do everything internally themselves. But there are partners out there who have different competencies. The brainstorming sessions, many of the ideas came from that collaborative, diverse team. So I would say that the biggest thing here is that if you get into projects like this and if you want to maintain the brand, make sure that you have a collaborative team and that you're pulling all the best resources in. They're out there.
Yeah, collaboration was definitely key here. At 360i, I was brought into this project because of my background in direct response campaigns. And I like bringing in the direct response best practices with the Maya team and with the Martin agency. We were able to find the right creative for the right audience and making sure that we were tracking everything properly to really capture like who's really engaging and who's making the purchase. So I think that without our internal brainstorms, there was no pride. Like we all just wanted to do this like for Mondelēz and to make sure that it was the best for everyone. So we're really grateful to work with this great team.
So for us sort of coming in at the tail end and looking at what was the purpose behind designing this packaging and sort of aside from the holiday messaging and things like that, what we really loved is that the idea of like art isn't so precious and that you're letting the consumer in on this experience where they're getting to create alongside these really cool, very relevant, cultural artists that have a cultural perspective, and that being like such a cool part of it. And then, playing off of like people forget that emotion is a strategy, and oftentimes people tend to lean towards, tears and laughter in their marketing plans that way. But this is so cool because this is about wonder and imagination and doing something that's a little bit different. So we loved that when we got to sit down and talk through the creative with the team.
Fantastic. Just a show of hands. We're all sort of in a similar business here, I assume. Who's had a client come up to them and say that we need to be more innovative? So this idea of innovation obviously is so great in theory, but to actually take an idea, as Bonin mentioned, off of the death of the sort of PowerPoint and actually bring it into the marketplace is so much more difficult in practice. So obviously in going through and working together, you've already sort of mentioned this idea of collaboration, but what have you learned as part of this process that are really the sort of keys to making this work, both sort of from a partnership perspective as well as the processes that need to be in place to sort of help that happen? And maybe John, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I think that on some level the idea of innovation is a lot like the scientific method, right? You have a hypothesis that you think is going to work, and it's informed by your gut, first and foremost, probably, but that's market dynamics and cultural trends, and like we saw with the coloring book idea, like there's you feel like this thing is going to work, you have examples to prove that it should, but and hopefully it does, and sometimes it won't, but you learn from that, and you move on, and you apply it to the next go-round, and you keep going. I think just from a cultural standpoint, it's a lot of what the themes of, that was talked about already today, which is, creating a culture where ambition is valued as much as accuracy, or as much as, like where you have that permission to try things, to experiment, to get out there and kind of, in some cases, fail into it. Hopefully not, too often, but I think that's a lot of it is just like the culture in which is created, and I think was created with this team, absolutely, that allows for these kind of ideas and innovation.
I would also say that this fearless nature of talent, okay, and also embodying and allowing people to be creative. When you look at the people that are in the team and you look at their competencies, for example, Steve, you really never worked with packaging before. You never really created a print file for packaging. I think that you have to challenge the talent within your organization to maybe take on new roles, expand their wings, and try new things, because from those ideas become those innovations. And also, it's a learning process for the people inside, and there's a tremendous amount of new ideas being cultivated between these relationships now. So I would say that that's a big lesson learned out of this.
Yeah, we had a big idea, which really helps because it kind of sells it, right? You can get people pretty jazzed up and get some power players on the team, which helps provide some air cover. There's some traditional print processes out there that I think HP's digital press breaks, and nobody's really figured out how to take advantage of that technology. Same thing with trending vending. There were some pretty cool consumer-grade 3D printing technologies out there. Nobody figured out how to break those. So I think that there's some stuff going on under the surface here where this is probably the first time somebody's put a vector, like as a packaging designer, you're using something like Illustrator or InDesign to make files for a traditional press. With a digital press, you don't need somebody who went to school for design to make art, right? We can kind of collaborate. What we did was we built a site that lets anybody who loves Oreos to work with a famous artist and put that to press on a digital press from HP, right? And then work with a team in a factory to ship that to a household. And so we really broke a lot of the traditional processes that are involved in kind of taking something to market. And I think that that's the big innovation here.
I think for all of us, you hear the story of how Lauren put together a factory and, your client's looking to push innovation. I think for all of us, when you sort of get behind the spirit of a client who's so forward-thinking and wants that so bad and is willing to do anything to make it happen, you're like, all right, it's all hands on deck here, let's do it. And I think that's all of our experience in working on this project.
Yeah, I think Lauren was able to inspire us a lot. And I think that's like a key for innovation as well. It's not just having an original idea, but also being able to inspire others to take action. I think from this project, I learned that when there's something new, you can't just go with best practices that other companies have done. You have to have your idea, and you also have to have a lot of backup ideas in case that first one doesn't work, and just be ready at the plate to be agile and change your perception and bring new things to market right away.
So now that you all have sort of been through this process, as a final question, I guess, how do you top this? And what are you or maybe a little bit easier question. You've had a chance to work with a lot of these great new technologies and processes. What are you excited to be working on next?
I'm under NDA, I can't say anything. No, I think keep your eyes open. I think you're going to see a tremendous amount of tremendous work coming out of this organization in the near future. I think that keep your eyes open, watch the trends that are going on. I see that this personalized trend is going to definitely take a further hold in the marketplace. When you connect it with some of the delivery systems that are going to come in place with mobile, I think it's going to be amazing. You're going to see some tremendous new things happening. Watch the data companies, watch the pure marketeers who have strong brands, because they're the ones who are going to take that first leap of faith off the cliff and really make something happen.
Yeah, go back and watch Bonin's intro. He told you exactly what we're going to do. And you'll see it come out in the next couple of years. It's been a journey. We started it, the Bonin's team started a long time ago. I started on this with trending vending, and I think we have some really killer concepts to bring some new stuff to the table. We just got to keep collaborating.
As I was telling a lot of my friends about this project, a question that kept coming up was, oh, can you make the cookies custom? And so I think that's coming probably eventually, but I think that also just made me really realize that everybody has a favorite Oreo cookie. And I think that's something to really play up, that it is still a personalized experience for people. I don't know if we're ready for Oreo airplanes yet, but that could be something really exciting in the future. But personally, I'm really excited about like augmented reality and virtual reality as well, and brands having more ways to not just be in front of a screen that you're watching, but also in your world. So I think that's going to be really big in the next couple of years.
Yeah, so two things. I think, one, this project had some necessary constraints on it, and that's okay. Some of the best work comes from working within that and pushing against that. I think as the ability to change the embossment more, you have customization there and change the color inside of it to really, the canvas broadens more. And so for us, from a creative perspective, obviously that's amazing opportunity. And then the other thing is too, is like this tapped into the holidays. So culturally, like how can we take this into other calendar events, other things happening in culture to really just create those connection points between the brand and people?
So this campaign really just launched this week, and so I think we're still all really in the moment of it, which is exciting. And from our standpoint, from the experience side, Cindy said that she wanted her Supreme shoes moment of people lining up around the block. So we still have a few tricks up our sleeve that we're working on towards the rest of that campaign, and we're definitely gonna fire up the cool kids.
Well, wonderful. Congratulations to all the panelists. Thank you so much. If we can all give them a round of applause.
Here's the box, where we're shipping hundreds of thousands or thousands around the country. Or for this project, you can pick people you know in 12 different states, mail them 10 boxes, and see how it comes back. And it's a really small version of testing.
Seeing Lauren actually stand on the backs, jumping up and down on it, and being so proud that they were able to develop this in such a short period of time. And truly, this is monumental. I mean, when you really think about what they're doing here, using these materials, and the interior, if you get a chance later on to walk around and touch some of this stuff, there was tremendous engineering that went on with this project.